Hey, what's going on? This is Terrence Manning, and this is My Thoughts Uncut. Wanted to talk today about the Chicago audio that we heard that was ignored and told the Chicago PD not to reply and not to help out the ICE agents. They basically ordered them to not help them during this protest with the Chicago citizens. And let's take a look.
Meanwhile, in Chicago, sources telling Fox News police there were told to actually stand down on helping ICE agents who are in danger. Mike Tobin has this story for us. All the details. Hi, Mike.
And Dana, we've got a lot of rank and file Chicago police officers behind the scenes telling us that they are outraged that the stand down order went out to them after federal agents were attacked. The order appears to have come through a communication from the chief of patrol over the communication through the Office of Emergency Management and Communication, reading, "No units will respond to this." Multiple police sources have confirmed to us the message is authentic and it is backed up by audio of the stand down order.
And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that per 999, chief of patrol said all units.
So the chief of patrol, that role as a in the Chicago Police Department, it basically oversees the department and the districts, like maybe 20 plus districts. It also is they're also in charge of routine patrols, major events, critical incidents, and also the handling of public safety. So it's a key role and a key position for Chicago Police Department. And it seems like that this chief of patrol officer actually told his units to not respond to this Chicago um, crowd slash protest.
Let's clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location. All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Place in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Place in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
So there you saw and heard that they were surrounded by large crowds of people, which that's a huge safety issue for a police officer, police officers, plural, ICE agents, federal agents, etc. That's not something you want a crowd to surround any law enforcement, and then to not even back them up. That's pathetic.
In an official statement, CPD says officers did respond, writing, quote, CPD responded to the scene to document the incident. CPD officers were also on the scene to maintain safety and traffic control. Now, chaos was triggered when, according to...
So, see, it says to maintain public safety and traffic control, but the crowd was crazy. How were they there doing their jobs? I'm not seeing how that actually relates to anything that we saw on video. Let's continue.
The scene to maintain safety and traffic control. Now, chaos was triggered when, according to federal prosecutors, two individuals used their cars to ram the cars of Border Patrol agents. One of the agents shot a driver of one attacking vehicle. Those attackers are now charged federally. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says the facts need to play out.
We don't have a lot of facts. Remember, these are the same folks who killed.
When you say you don't have a lot of facts, there's video evidence that these individuals use their vehicles to ram other federal officers in their vehicles. That is assault with a deadly weapon. Officers are trained to reply in that manner with assault, because you're trying to ram them, and anything can happen when you're using a 4,000+ pound vehicle. It's pretty clear that your life is in danger if you have a vehicle. If someone's driving a car and they're ramming it, I think they said truck. So truck is even heavier than a normal sedan.
A person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. At first, they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. They are just putting out their propaganda, and then we've got to later determine what actually happened.
300.
It's not propaganda when there's video evidence of ICE agents being attacked by large crowds. It's not propaganda when you have people that think that they can ram federal agents with your vehicle. I've never seen this in America. This is some third world country kind of crap. These people are trying to risk their lives to get illegal immigrants out of here. And you got this governor saying that this is propaganda. That's not what propaganda is.
Illinois National Guardsmen have now been called up for a 2-month deployment to Chicago. What you're looking at right now is video of the scene that triggered that particular radio call. Tear gas and pepper balls were deployed into the crowd after that 2-month
look at the
deployment
crowd.
to Chicago. What you're looking at right now is National Guard.
Determine what actually happened.
What I want you guys to pay attention to is look at this crowd. Look how crazy it is. Look how many ICE agents there are. And look how they're outnumbered.
300 Illinois National Guardsmen have now been called up for a 2-month deployment to Chicago. What you're looking at right now is video of the scene that triggered that particular radio call. Tear gas and pepper balls were deployed into the crowd after agents said they
Look
were
at her
attacked.
dancing.
But meantime, as I just mentioned, 300 Illinois National Guardsmen have been called up for a 2-month deployment to Chicago to protect federal personnel and property. Also, Texas National Guardsmen, 400 of them, have been called up for deployment to both Illinois, to Portland, and an undetermined location. Back to you, Dana.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here.
Well, that's good. We got the National Guard being deployed from Texas and other areas in the country to help out in this chaotic situation in Chicago. This is something that needs to be done. Chicago needs to be fixed. We need to get these illegal immigrants out of Chicago. We need crime down in Chicago. I don't understand why people think it's okay for the governor of Chicago, Pritzker, and the mayor, Brandon Johnson, to just always claim that Black and brown people don't do any crime. They don't do any harm. It's clear as day. These people are nuts. Let's take a look at what the actual superintendent said.
We interrupt programming for breaking news from NBC Chicago.
Good afternoon to you. I'm Marion Brooks. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling is about to hold a press conference. He's speaking out as federal immigration enforcement efforts continue in Chicago. Let's listen in.
That's going on in the city. So I want to be clear about one thing. This is about law enforcement response to these types of incidents. So I want to be clear that I'm going.
So just to let you guys know, the superintendent role, this is the superintendent's role. Responsible for organizing department, managing its operations and budget, implementing strategic initiatives like community policing and public plans. So this person right here is in charge of the entire Chicago Police Department. So now let's see what he says in regards to what transpired.
I'm going to limit my responses to that. So it would be appreciated if your questions are around our law enforcement response to what we're seeing here with federal agents and immigration enforcement and how we respond. I've been quiet a little too long because I want to stay out of the politics of this, because as you know, there's a lot of politics around this. I don't play politics. I've told you that before.
He said he's been quiet for too long and he wants to stay out of politics. So that could mean he could be butting heads with the mayor of Chicago and the governor.
I'm the head of a department that enforces the law. We have to be politically neutral if we are going to enforce the law the way that it's supposed to be enforced, impartially. We want to make sure that when we show up, we're keeping every single person in this city safe, and we want to keep the peace. That's our jobs. And that's what our men and women out there every single day are doing, putting their lives on the line to keep this city safe. So I just want to be clear about a few things. The events that occurred on Saturday when there was a shooting involving ICE agents. So I'm going to start with a timeline. It started out with our two deputy chiefs who responded to the scene. That would be Deputy Chief Brian Kinane and Deputy Chief Gabriella Shemash. They did an excellent job over there. The narrative is out there that CPD was not on scene. CPD did not show up. Let me just put all of that to rest. At 10:32 a.m., CPD receives a call of a person shot at 39th and Kedzie. By 10,
Look at this. Look at this. Looks like it's a Chevy SUV ramming into the white truck, and I believe that's the ICE agent's truck or DHS agent's truck.
10:36 a.m., CPD responds. They located a woman who flagged them down. She had been shot. She stated that she had been shot by federal agents. CFD was called. She was taken to the hospital to have her gunshot wounds treated. At 11:06, CPD officers are at the hospital with this individual who had been shot. At 11:25 a.m., CPD units are holding down the scene where the offending vehicle was located. And when I say the offending vehicle, we're talking about the vehicle that smashed into the Border Patrol vehicle.
Notice he didn't say allegedly. He said the vehicle that smashed into the Border Patrol vehicle. No propaganda. No maybe. He stated himself it was the vehicle that smashed into federal law enforcement vehicle.
At 11:36 a.m., the scene is then turned over to federal authorities for their investigation after CPD was clear that there was a shooting that involved this particular person who was at the hospital. At 12:12 p.m., in a separate incident, and I believe people have been conflating these two things. In a separate incident from the shooting, there was a vehicle that rammed the federal agents off the road, ran them off the road at 3200 West 35th Street. They crashed as a result of it. That offending vehicle also struck another vehicle in that location, another federal vehicle in that location, and then fled the scene. Our officers arrived on the scene to do the reports and document everything that happened. We have no documented injuries from that incident.
So there was another incident where a vehicle rammed their vehicle into ICE agent's vehicle. A separate incident. That's two.
12:28 p.m., federal agents called for CPD to assist due to a large crowd gathering at 39th and Kedzie. At 1:09 p.m., additional CPD units are en route to 39th and Kedzie. At 1:15 at 39th and Kedzie, where CPD is on scene, a group of protesters began moving barricades and federal agents deployed tear gas. At 2:56 p.m., objects are being thrown at CPD by members of the public. Federal agents again deployed gas to leave the area. So let me just kind of break down what happened there, because at 3:48, everything was all clear. When our officers arrived on scene, they met with the federal agents who were out there. The federal agents had deployed chemical agents. They deployed chemical agents while our officers were there. Those who will tell you that our officers weren't there, say that to the 27 officers who were affected by the chemical agents that were deployed by federal agents. There were 27 reports done to document.
Now he's saying that there were officers on the scene, Chicago police officers. So let's just go back to the audio we heard that states the contrary.
They were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all. They were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were. We have.
An order.
All right, here we go.
And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that per 999.
Per the chief of patrol,
Chief of patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over.
not some, not a little bit, not 5, not 6, not 7, all units per chief patrol clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over there to that location.
To that location. All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were
They're saying they're being surrounded by that large crowd. They're requesting police were not sending.
requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Police in Kedzie.
Waved off all the cars that's heading to that location.
Those are the orders we're being given.
Again, those are the orders that are being given. So what he's saying versus what we can clearly hear and see is two different things. So I'm not sure what he was told or where these 27 Chicago PD officers were, but in any of the video shots, when the ICE agents were surrounded by these protesters and they were being violent at the same time, these protesters, I didn't see any images, videos of Chicago PD.
Our officers who were affected by that gas. I've since had a conversation with federal agents, and on that particular day, I spoke with the leadership of the federal agency. We talked about things as to how we were going to work this out. You see, communication is the key here. Communication does not mean collaboration. This had nothing to do with immigration enforcement.
What does he mean? Communication doesn't mean collaboration. Hold on.
As to how we were going to work this out. You see, communication is the key here. Communication does not.
Communication is the key here.
Not mean collaboration.
Communication does not mean collaboration. So he claims that they got tear gas, but he does claim that communication is the key. So with that logic, if ICE agents were communicating with Chicago PD, how did they end up tear gassed? If they were collaborating, it sounds like they were not collaborating. So I'm gonna have to disagree with him on this one.
This had nothing to do with immigration enforcement. What it had to do with a scene where someone in our city was shot, and we as CPD are responsible for showing up, documenting that, even when the shooting and the investigation has been taken over by the FBI. We stayed out there for the crime scene to make sure that evidence was preserved, because if that evidence isn't preserved, a proper and a well-performed investigation cannot be done if we don't preserve the crime scene. If we allow people to breach that area and contaminate the crime scene, it hurts the investigation. We have a duty to do so. So I need to be clear about a few things. When a crime is being committed, CPD is going to show up.
As they
And
should.
it doesn't matter if there are ICE agents there. We have a duty to investigate and protect our city. Now, there are a lot of talking heads out there. There are a lot of politics being used here. And people are using this for their political talking points. Well, my officers are not political pawns. My leadership team, not political pawns. Their lives are too important to play politics with these men and women who face danger every single day. This is not a game. This is not a joke. This is still our city. And we still have a responsibility to maintain safety and calm in our city. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to address. One, what we have to deal with as a department, because I want to be clear to those who have never done the job, who haven't done the job in years, who weren't on scene, who don't know the facts or have the facts. But they've got a lot of solutions or a lot of ideas of what happened or what should have happened. Let me first talk about the Trust Act. The Trust
What should have happened is that Chicago PD should be out there assisting with ICE to make sure everything is safe. But I do admit their hands are tied behind their back because of the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson.
Trust Act prohibits law enforcement in the state of Illinois from engaging in assisting federal agents when it comes to immigration enforcement. We abide by that law. The city ordinance, the Welcoming City ordinance, goes a little further. It even prohibits us from asking someone their status. We abide by that ordinance because in law enforcement, we don't make the laws, we uphold them. And we're sworn to do so. And we take our oath seriously. Engaging with federal agents, we do it on a regular basis. We have task force officers who are out there every single day working to stop human trafficking, drug enforcement, gun violence, gun recoveries, search warrants, and everything in between when it comes to violent crime in our city. We have a great partnership with our federal agents, and we still do, and we will continue to work with them around violent crime. But let me explain how important it is to understand how difficult it is for our officers at times. Because when we look at the Trust Act and the Welcoming City ordinance, sometimes there's a struggle when you're walking that line to make sure that you're not violating either one of those things. And at the same time, enforcing the law the way that we're supposed to. One thing about law enforcement, I'll tell you this right now, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But we accept that.
I give him credit. It is tough to be a law enforcement officer. It's tough to be a police officer, a beat officer. And he's right. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So I'm not going to stand here and make excuses or pretend like the job is not a struggle. So we're going to make excuses about it. No, we're not going to do that. Again, these men and women go out there every single day, and these are the things that they fight through. And my leadership team wants to make sure that our officers don't get caught up in something where they end up in an investigation, fairly or unfairly. And they want to make sure that these officers are safe and that they can keep everyone else safe. So although we do not engage in immigration enforcement, we are going to enforce the law when the laws are violated. So let me be clear to the public about certain things. You have to excuse me, I'm a little dehydrated. Let me make this clear.
Drink some water.
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed.
That is true. You box them in, it's a huge safety issue. You box them in, they have to counter that in some way. If they feel you're boxing them in for an ambush, they have a right to respond.
And that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. Law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, and you do this intentionally, this is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force.
Look, he's right. Here's my authentic thoughts. So these protesters, they have a battery in their back now. And it's because of these mayors in Chicago, like Brandon Johnson, JP Pritzker, who's the governor, who consistently say these things about ICE is basically Nazis and fascists and they're racist. So now you have these protesters who think that they can go out there and they can prevent these ICE agents from doing their job. They're not allowed to block these ICE agents from going into their facility, their building. They're not allowed to stop arrests that ICE is making. And of course, they can't ram people. You shouldn't be ramming anyone. That is assault with a deadly weapon. That can be, ICE has a right, and any law enforcement officer has a right to think that actually is deadly force. So now, what do you think the ICE agents are going to do? They're going to use deadly force because they want to go home to their kids, their wives, their husbands. So those are my authentic thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.